want to be doing a test with a coding prompt that I've been doing. Every once in a while I do try, when I use AI for something and I do have the time, I try to compare the different tools to see what the responses they give me. And I'm gonna, so just for reference, here's the example. Let me get rid of that. This is where I composed my prompt. I basically have a little bit of a type here, and I want to make this function that takes a string URL, and it parses the URL into this type, right? And this is just a rough outline. So I've explained what I want the function to do, and how it was done before, and how I want to change it, which it was using these regexes for URLs. And also some examples in the code of how the regexes were being applied to classify the URL. And I've also given it the definition of the parse URL function, so it knows what I'm doing with that. And I'm just telling it to do, if it needs to use regexes for matching on the path or something, that's fine, but I'd rather use the URL object whenever possible, and blah, 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 right? So that's what we're going to be comparing, just a small thing. It's probably easier to do it by hand, but just every time I get one of these things, I want to check how the tools are to see if they would be useful for maybe getting some work done faster or something. So I'm going to be sending the prompt to several LLMs. Hopefully Deepseek works this time because it's usually down. Let's do ChatGPT with reasoning as well. I think that's O3 Mini. And the Qwen with the QwQ, the reasoning model that was released, I think, today, maybe. So let's send it there too. And Grok from X, with the thinking mode. And let's see what happens. Let's see. This one's still going. This one's already giving me an answer. 22 seconds. This one's still going. This one's still going. I would have liked to do Claude as well, but they've disabled me 3.7 Sonnet, and I never had the thinking mode because I'm not paying them. And I don't have it configured for the API, so I can't try it. Let's see. Let's have a look at the ChatGPT one, the first one that finished. Let's see. License part URL. Normalize the host name, removing W's. Check the URLs, the path name, decide the type of embed. All right. We get the host name to lowercase. Place the start. Actually, I'm not sure if the W's are part of the host name. I do have to check this part. Suspicious of that. All right, check the host. Internal, that's fine. Twitter X, and match the /statuses with the ID, with the path name. That looks fine. Instagram, I got no idea what it does, but if it starts with B or real, yeah, okay, that's fine. The extension detection. I have to check. I don't know if the URL has some sort of way to get the extension of the URL, or maybe it's just part of the path. I don't remember right now. The hosts for the videos, make some set. That's nice. Check, or if it ends with MP4, and then the other ones are a link. Yeah, this looks fine. I would have to check a couple of things, like the host name and the W's. It's probably right, but I don't remember, and I don't trust it because they make things up all the time. And let's see what the other ones say. Maybe one of them has finished. Let's see. All right. This one's added the internal website. That's fine. That's the host name. The file name, it splits the path on slash and it takes the last segment. Okay, last segment of the path. I guess if the URL was ending in a slash, that would be a problem, right? If you had a URL and it ended in a slash, you would get an empty segment here. Not sure if that would be correct though. Just something to consider. So we get the images checked first, very similar. The other way around than ChatGPT, instead of doing the test on the regex, is doing the match on the file name. That's fine. Case insensitive search, that's cool. The hosts, it's using an array and sum instead of a set. And it's doing ends with so that it doesn't get tripped by subdomains. So instead of doing this, stripping the W's, it's doing an ends with. This will be more resilient, I guess, if the subdomains change. Yeah, I like this part a little bit better. The set gives you the intentionally a little bit better, but it's completely fine. You can see them here, so there's not going to be any duplicates. Just some differences, interesting. If it ends on MP4, could have done this with an or condition here. Decided to separate it, that's fine too. Twitter or X. It did the status or not the statuses. I don't know if both are valid right now, but the regex before did that. May be fine. Just some slight differences between the P or the real for Instagram. I like the host ends with. That brings better than the stripping of the W's that O3 Mini did. Let's see. This is the internal links. That looks fine. And finally, the website. Checks file extensions only in the last path segment. User host passing. Yeah, and this note, this is what I was mentioning before. For subdomain handling, we use ends with on the host name. This ensures we match subdomains while avoiding false positives on similar domains. Yeah, maybe. Like, you could see how this is right and it's not right as well. Like, you could see how if the domain was fakeinstagram.com, this would still match, right? So, not sure this is the correct way either. Now I just thought about that. So yeah. So we got two different approaches. Both of them, I think, have their own issues with it. Let's see what Qwen did. All right, factor code. It added internal and website, very similar to R1. O3 Mini called it link, I think. Yeah. Let's see. So a little bit of LLM code review. Right, the internal one, that's fine, easy. The extensions, it decided to use, instead of using a regex, to put them in an array, which is completely fine as well. And maybe better than using the regexes, like we said, to avoid regexes when not necessary. So that's good. It's splitting the path on slashes, getting only the ones that have content, so empty segments are going to be removed, and then getting the last one. So empty slash at the end will give you the segment before the slash. I think this one's better than the other one. I like that one. We get the last segment, we split it by dots, we grab the last piece, If there's any, we lowercase it or empty string. And then we check if it includes it. Okay. It looks fine at first glance. Same thing here is the hosts. It uses an array instead of a set, like O3 Mini. That's completely fine. And it uses includes instead of sum, which kind of like reads better than sum with the lambda, but it's the same. It's fine. Special handling for YouTube. Oh, okay. So only grab the YouTube links with watch or embed. Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. Maybe I'd clear it out and remove YouTube from here. That's fine. That's fine. Only YouTube videos, video embed links. Maybe this one's better with a regex because you get a malformed URL. Have my doubts. All right. The extension. Yeah, that's good. Twitter X. Status. Yeah, it's okay. I don't think we're using the IDs for anything at the moment, just for detection. So we're not capturing them in with the regex. That's okay. Instagram. The path to the real. Okay. No, in terms of the subdomains or www dot, no checking at all. Like they did, O3 Mini did the stripping of the W's, Deepseek did the ends with, and Qwen did nothing. It's just exact subdomains. So if it has W's, it's not gonna handle them properly. We didn't say anything. I'm not saying, just part of the problem that's unspecified. So it's interesting to see how the different LLMs address the same thing. So what else? We looked at that. Yeah, website, blah, blah, blah. Is there anything here, note about that? The code avoids complex regex patterns. That for sure. Qwen took literally the do not use regexes, and it took it the furthest. I don't think there's a single regex in the whole function, which is fine. It just thought to do it that way. It's okay. Just interesting to see. File extension, hostname checks, simple substring matching. Okay. And finally, let's see Grok. We're seeing weird stuff. Let's see. Ooh, oh my God, what's this answer? Blah, 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 blah. All right. Internal. Everything else, internal on website. Upper functions. Selective, constants, URLs, path name. All right, video platforms, okay. Image extensions as an array as well. Video extensions. That looks fine because we're probably going to need to add some other video extensions. Only that one doesn't make a lot of sense. Get extension function. Gets a URL, gets the path name. There's the last index of a dot. I think this is very wrong. Like if you get the path name and there's a segment earlier that has a dot in it and you split by that, then you're not going to get the extension. You're going to get the rest of the path as a, like if I say a.b/c/d, then you're going to get .b/c/d. So it doesn't seem right. I mean, it would work when the extension is at the end, but it would give you very weird values when there's a dot in the path somewhere. So it works for the use case. As a function itself, get extension, it doesn't make sense this way, I don't think. Let's see. Is image, it uses includes. I like that it's making small functions that do one thing. That's kind of it looks nice, would be maybe easier to test or something like that. Maybe too small, I don't know. It's just interesting, it's a very different approach. So video file, it does the includes. It's doing the get extension in many places, which is not great. Like at this point, you could just basically get the extension here instead of the whole URL, because you're not using it. You're gonna be doing that get extension shenanigans many times, which is not great. Yeah, I'm not sure I like that. The tweet one, space, it checks the host name literally, no concern for subdomains or www dot. And it's doing a bunch of shenanigans for getting the first path segment, removes the empty ones. And then it checks the ID as well. This is crap, just to be clear. Like if you're gonna do checking the status segment and then checking that it's at the end and that there's an ID after, that it exists and it's followed by a numeric ID. You just do a regex for that, right? It's a very, very, very simple regex, and it makes sense for here. And I said it in the prompt. If you needed to check the path, you could use a regex if it's something simple. And yeah, I don't like this part. Let's see. No subdomain checking. Again, the segment stuff is just going to be doing multiple times as you're checking the same multiple functions. It's going to be doing the path splitting, which is just unnecessary. Yeah, that's not the best. And again, like this is very, very wrong. Like you could get an empty array, right? And that's going to blow up. It's just wrong. This is not good. Minimal regex. It just got obsessed with that. I told it that it could use it for paths, but it's just not considering that. And then the final structure of the thing. Yeah, okay. And then some examples and stuff. It didn't do the YouTube, the thing that Qwen did with the watch and the embed, right? Just the domains. This video file, video extensions, and then video platforms includes, yeah. So it's not doing a check with the watch or the embed URL as well. So very interesting comparison, I think. And it tells you first, like from these reasoning models, and there may be more or better ones that are the ones I have access to. All of them, they have trade-offs. They're giving you, none of them gave you perfect code. As you can see, they don't think. They're not thinking about the problem, the edge cases. They're not really smart or clever. So I think it's debatable how much time and effort they save you, especially because then you end up with code that you didn't write, so it's harder to understand. It's like you're always code reviewing. Code reviewing takes time and takes expertise and patience, and it's usually not fun. So because you're trying to decipher the intent and trying to see edge cases or things that the code may be doing wrong, like I was doing just right now, and it just takes a bunch of time. And yeah, let's see final analysis. Let's check. So Grok thought for 36 seconds. Qwen thought for, can we check? We don't know how long he thought for. Doesn't say, I don't think. O3 Mini checked for 22 seconds, and Grok was 36. And just check. Whoa, and Deepseek thought for 142 seconds. That's a lot more, a lot longer. That's 30 seconds to 140 seconds. It's so between half a minute and 2 minutes and a quarter or so. That's a big difference. Not sure if that's probably including the speed of the service. Maybe it's more overloaded or something. Not sure. Was something to consider. And so strengths and weaknesses. Let's see. So Deepseek did a good job. It at least tried with the ends with, and it took it into consideration. It didn't use regexes where it didn't need to, but it did where it was a small thing. This is fine, or doing it with an array is fine as well. The path splitting is not great, could be buggy, and it's doing in the path, it's doing checks with regexes like we said in our comment that it could do. So I think Deepseek followed the instructions fairly well. It followed the instructions fairly well. It took into consideration some extra things that it thought about, like the subdomains, which I didn't mention anything at all. Maybe it saw it from the regexes, I'm not sure. The regexes I pasted here. They have the star and stuff. So I think it's a fairly good result. A couple of tweaks, maybe prompting a couple of times to fix the path splitting and do something else with the host stuff. And it's fairly succinct. You could see why inlining all of these checks may just be fine compared to what Grok was doing of making a function for each kind of thing, which maybe would make more sense if the checks were more complicated or longer. So I think pretty good result. It's not the perfect solution, doesn't look like the perfect solution. It's one-shot prompt, so maybe, what do we give it, 7, 8? Maybe an 8, could be. Let's see. O3 Mini, I think did a good job too. It had a solution for the normalizing the host name, so that's good. I don't remember. Let me check on the comment situation, because sometimes they self-comment a lot. Okay, it's very redundant comments, but yeah, it's what it is. They just do that to think themselves, I think. That's one of the things you can see when someone's generating code with an LLM and they're not checking, unless they have specifically prompted to not write comments in the code, or superficial comments, or I've tried sometimes to tell it, do not write comments that say the same thing as the code, just write them to explain what the code is doing, not say what the code is doing, because you can already see that. And as far as I know, they don't do a good job with that. There's lots of always superficial comments that they're writing. I don't like these comments. Anyway, let's see. O3 Mini, we were saying it did something with the hostname situation. It used regexes for the paths. where it made sense, which keep things concise but not overly complicated like the other regexes in the prompt. It didn't do it here, but it did it here. That's fine. That's okay. Would be in favor of doing a regex. Would be make this line this short instead of however long it is. But it's okay. It's okay. Nothing important. It used a regex instead of an array for that. That's completely fine. It used the set, which is interesting. You could move this thing out of the function, so we're not making a set. It's just a dumb thing, but imagine you're parsing thousands of URLs. You can help by moving constants out. But it's fine. It's okay. I like the extension matching. It just grabs the whole path name and it checks the end. There's no shenanigans with splitting by dot and things like that. I think that's pretty good. And yeah, not much more to say. And it mentioned the normalizing of the URL. Very good. I think this is on par with Deepseek. Very, very similar. So probably just also well an 8. I'd give an 8 to Deepseek and an 8 to Mini. Qwen, let me remember. Qwen didn't use any regexes at all, which makes the code a lot more verbose and definitely harder to understand. It did a little bit better on the path splitting, but also it's forgetting the extension, and O3 Mini's solution is just so much simpler. So yeah, it just suffers from focusing on not using regexes for everything. The solution suffers. It did take into account filtering specifically video URLs for YouTube, which is an extra thing, but it's also in lighting here, so it's doing the check for YouTube twice. Probably just pull it out. Yeah. And what else did we see? It's doing the includes thing with the path and the string, which maybe it didn't say this before, but like this may be wrong, right? You may have status in somewhere else in the path. That's not at the beginning where you want it. It's not the starts with. So this one's, all of this stuff is definitely wrong. Yeah, now that I see it at second glance, I don't think it's that good of a solution. So, and it's checking the hosts directly, no concern for subdomains or anything. I think for Qwen, we're gonna have to lower the score. Does it pass? Does it get a 5 or above? I mean, it looks like it's code that compiles. It's going to have edge cases that don't work, and it's not the most readable. So I guess a 5 for a pass. Seems like it could work. Not ideal. Lots of superficial comments as well. Yeah, let's give it a 5. And Grok, I think I'm going to fail from what I remember. Did I get the whole code or just pieces? So first I got the pieces. This is all fine if I get the pieces, right? You're asking for a piece of code. If you get the pieces and then at the end you get the chunk of code with everything, I think that would be fine, right? But we're getting something like literate programming, right? Like we're getting like, these source files where they have, they used to have like comments that are explanations and then the code in between, and then you could render them into a document that would have this way, right? They would have the other way around. The comments would be the text, the top level text, and then the code would be embedded in code blocks. So it kind of looks like that, which is fine to read. But if you want to integrate this back into what you're doing, it's going to be more difficult. In terms of the code quality, this is fine using an array for this. I like that you used an array for this. This is the only one that did this. The functions, I think they're all very small. As you saw in the other examples, if we look at O3 Mini, for example, it's just very little logic. Just making functions for them it doesn't make sense in most of the cases. So I don't think, I mean, systematically, maybe it's not a bad approach, but you have to really see case by case if it makes sense to make a function or not, because it's another place you have to jump to when you're reading the code. Or you trust it and trust there's something there you don't understand. So it's trade-offs. I could see it going both ways, but also the problem with extracting these functions is that we're going to be duplicating work for each check. Like get extension is called multiple times. If we're using the path segments, that's going to be done in several places. It's just copy-pasting code in one place and another, so that's not great. If that was the case, if you really wanted to go this way, instead of parse URL giving you the base DOM URL class, you could make your enhanced URL class and cache the split path segments and the extension and all of that already pre-computed so that you can check on it on these functions. I would be happier with that if that's what it decided to do, which it didn't. It just didn't have concern for that. It's just spitting out duplicated code here and there. These are just some shenanigans. I think we saw some bugs that it could have, or just verbosity. If I remember correctly, this could be a bug. Yeah, this looks neat and tidy, but it's also like abstracted, so you would have to go check what it's doing here. So some good things, some bad things, some bugs that we can see at first glance. No concern for subdomains. I think this is a little bit worse than Qwen, even though it has some things that could be cool. So I think for the bugs, I'm going to give it a 4. And because I think it would just fail in some cases. But very similar to Qwen, so 4 or 5. So it's a big difference between O3 Mini and Deepseek, to be honest. But yeah, those are all tools at your disposal that you can use. It's amazing, to be honest, the amount of good models that we have with a free tier. Yeah, we're giving them their data and they're going to train on it later. But sometimes it's useful, you know, especially the search mode I've been using a few times. It's fun to have something in search faster than you could and synthesize information. So yeah, I don't know what this is useful for. It's just a very small example. The time it would have taken to write this would be small, especially with the autocompletes that we have these days. And I'm not sure how much effort is worth to use these to generate your code. It still can't think about it. And if you've been programming for a while, you know programming is there's just edge cases galore everywhere. And you really have to keep in mind what you're doing and be diligent and reason. I mean, you can write code without doing all of those things, but that's going to bite you in the ass a lot sooner than you think. That's what I've experienced, at least in 20 years of coding. And yeah, just I think it's important to check on the tools yourself, right? You'll see there's all these videos talking about this new model is the best, and this new model is gonna take your job, and like Cursor and Windsurf and Klein and whatever the fuck next thing they came up with. And they all have their uses. They all are trying to make you use your brain less so that you become dumber and dependent on them, and you have to pay them every month. That's how many of the businesses we have nowadays work. Instead of enhancing you, they just want to make you dependent and profit from you. That doesn't mean that they're not useful tools. They really are. And I'm sure if we had a conversation about the host names, maybe I don't remember, and I'm tired. I've been working, and I want to just have some rubber ducking with someone. And I do it with the LLM, and I talk about the host names and how to handle the subdomains properly and explore that thing. And they are useful tools, but they are useful when they are. No, they're not a silver bullet. We are always looking for silver bullets. And there's no silver bullet. There really isn't. And I don't know what the conclusion is. The conclusion is not always go to this model. Try different ones. When the free tier for one of them ends, go to a different one and use that one. That's just fine. Deepseek, when it works, I've always found it to be useful, but O3 Mini is useful as well. I've used both for brainstorming things and pair programming a little bit. But whenever they're just writing code, I always end up having to go through the code and read it and understand what they're doing. And I always see issues that they didn't foresee. And I see things that are surprising, things I didn't think about and they handled. So I think they can enhance you. They can be helpful. And I think that's all. This is a long ramble, I guess. Rambling about these different things. And maybe it's useful for someone out of the video, out of the hype cycle and the coding tools. And, it's a small problem. It's an easy one. And they're still not perfect from them. So just take what you see online and on Twitter with a grain of salt regarding LLMs. Use them whenever they benefit you, and be suspicious of what they do. They can't think. That's I'm very sure that because they don't reason like we do. Maybe they could at some point, but how long is it going to take them? How expensive is that going to be? I think we're reaching some sort of limits with the amount of compute and time that we want to be waiting for these responses that a human can do faster. So use it to complement yourself. And that's it. End of the video. It's going to be a long one. Bye.